Hi everyone, it's Rhianna from A-Stop back again to talk about consent and what that looks like with older students, so high school, college, and adult groups. Last week we talked about consent with middle schoolers, and the whole reason we're focusing on consent is because this year's theme of Sexual Assault Awareness Month is I Ask. So just like it says in the name, consent is asking for permission. Now, when we talk about consent with high school students and beyond, it gets a little bit different. In the state of Wisconsin, no one can give consent if they are under the age of 18. Occasionally we'll see that they gave permission, but legally it's not consent. So that's kind of the first thing to educate an older student about, is that you legally can't give permission. And another tricky thing is alcohol. So with college students and adults, in the United States, you can drink alcohol legally if you're over the age of 21. But if you're under the influence of alcohol or actually any other intoxicant in Wisconsin, you legally cannot give consent. So even if you're 21, you can give consent for sex, and you can give consent to drink alcohol, give consent, but they kind of cancel each other out, because if you're under the influence, you are not able to make good decisions. You're not able to make rational, logical decisions. Your brain is altered, and that's the whole reason, like I say to kids, you can't drive a car if you're under the influence, because your reaction time is off. So some older students do choose to partake in drinking alcohol, even if they are not 21. We understand that that's an issue here in Wisconsin. But my job is to make sure that people know that if you were under the influence of alcohol and you did not give consent, you couldn't give consent, but that's still really important to make sure that we report that. And some students might be scared that if they were under the age of 21 and they were drinking alcohol illegally, they might not want to report because they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble. And while that is definitely scary, it's important for people to remember that if they chose to drink alcohol, they didn't choose to get sexually assaulted. And so it's our job as advocates to make sure that someone knows that they can still report, even if they're under the influence and still underage. So sometimes people will use alcohol or drugs as a way to unfortunately assault another person. And that's an important thing that we need to talk about, because even if someone was drinking, even if someone was partying, that doesn't mean that they were asking for sexual assault. A lot of times in the media, we'll see victim blaming statements where maybe a female was assaulted and they'll say, well, she shouldn't have been drinking so much. She drank too much. She was intoxicated to a degree that, she wasn't making any sense. What did she think was going to happen? But even if someone chooses to drink alcohol, that doesn't mean that they choose to be sexually assaulted. And no matter what, it's our job to educate people that consent is important, and people need to be giving consent of a free will. It can't be coerced. It can't be nagged. Someone can't say, even if they're in a relationship, oh, well, you gave consent last week, why not this week? That's not a good reason to give consent to someone if you're not comfortable. And no one should ever be pressuring another person into giving consent for sexual stuff. And I believe I mentioned it in a past video that, when kids get older and start to date, maybe their date says, oh, well, I bought you dinner, you owe me a kiss, or you owe me this, can I come up to your apartment? And if you say no, people need to respect that. And so when people don't respect the no, that's when sexual violence happens, because it was an action done against someone's will that they didn't give consent for. And that's what we at A-Stop are here to help with, to help people navigate, to help people when it comes to reporting to police or getting a sexual assault kit done at the hospital. We're there to accompany people no matter what, and no matter their case, we're here to help them. So to wrap this up, I know this was a little bit shorter and a little bit different today, but to wrap this up, I want everyone to remember that consent is important, even in relationships, even in marriages, even in long-term relationships. No matter what, people need to give consent and receive consent. And if you are not sure, the answer is no. The only way that someone actually says yes is if they say yes. It has to be verbal, it has to be enthusiastic. Couple reminders for the next couple weeks. Next week is Denim Day, so don't forget, very exciting. And next week's video will actually focus a little bit more on the story of Denim Day and why that was started, why we observe Denim Day, and then things you can do to support Denim Day as well. And Sexual Assault Awareness Month is almost over, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop bringing awareness to sexual violence. If any of the things that we've talked about in the past few weeks on our Facebook page, on our Instagram, anything like that, if that interests you and you want to get involved, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always become a volunteer at ASTAP. Things are a little bit different now with all the quarantine and the social distancing, but we always are looking for volunteers to help others. So if that's something that interests you, please give us a call. Our phone number is 920-926-5395. And I'll put our email down it below as well so that you can send us an email if you'd like. But it's really important to make sure that we're bringing awareness to sexual violence all times of the year, not just during April.